YouTube, Mark Kaufman here, and today I have two new Spartans / standards in the stable, and these are both transitional knives. I'm very happy to say that, but first I have them grouped in small groups here, and the first one is from 1976. This one I best guessed it to 1981. These three here are from 1986, and then the two here are from 1980s, probably even 1989, very late 80s here. This one here is going to be very early 90s, maybe 92, maybe 95. And then these two are going to be 2011 and onward. Now, this one here is a Victorinox Spartan that I picked up in these very nice, well, I want to call them topaz scales, but they're not really sapphire scales. They're very light blue. And this one here has the 1990s tang stamp on it. And it has gained the reamer, which was introduced in 1985. But really the giveaway on this one was the tang stamp. And so for me, I have one from the early 90s. And this one is very strong. I mean, the snaps on this is fantastic. So we have that one. We also have the 76. And this one I am very happy to say is one that is now in my collection. And I still have yet to decide if I am going to carry this, because I actually have what I suspect is 3 more of this exact one coming. And one of them I picked up for like $13 on eBay. The thing is, I am very suspicious that they are either this transitional model, or they're going to be the very early 1980s model. So this actually is when Victorinox ceased using the nickel-silver shields. So if you take a look here, the shields here are different. You have a nice little gold shield in the one on the left. Let me zoom in there. You can see that hint of gold in there, and that's going to be your nickel-silver. And then the one on the right is going to be stainless steel. So in the very early 80s, and so on, they actually stopped using this. But the reason why I actually think this is earlier in 1976 is because the tang stamp dictates it to be a 1976 model. And then you have that Officer Suisse there. I only did a very light polish on the blades. I didn't do very much to them. And it actually has its original edge there, a little bit of edge damage there, but that comes with the territory. But the snaps on this are incredible. The strength on these tools are fantastic. You have no 90-degree stop on the cap lifter. And then you still have the new clip, or not clip, the new spear point blade. Now, Victorinox ceased doing the little clip blade in 75, and the reason why I think this is an early one is because you have the nickel-silver shield, but then you have that transitional pen blade. And so this one here is going to be a very early one. The other reason why I believe it to be a little earlier is because the key ring is very indicative of the Victorinox knives from the 70s. And it has this very tight S in the frame here, whereas when you go to the more modern Victorinox knives, the S is not as tight. There's a little bit more distance between the ring itself and the space in between that. So let me see if I can get these next to each other to see the difference. You see how there's a little bit more space there? So that is another uncommon way to date your knife, but you can do that. The other reason why I believe this is a very early one is because the scale color is actually different. To my eyes, the one on the left is actually a tomato red, and the one on the right is going to be a more fire engine red. So that is another way to see if it's different or a early model. But the other reason I feel this is very early is because the awl. Now the awl here is sharpened almost all the way down to the handle of the knife. And you only see this on very early Victorinox awls. And I'm going to put in a little clip here of one that I had in the past that is very early, and it's a very early 61 model Victorinox Tourist. And these awls had this little ridge or indent in the end of the tip to make it a little more sharper, but the earlier awls always went down to almost the base of the handle. So to my eyes and my research, this one here is going to be a 76 model. These are very small details that you must learn to date these things, and it takes time to learn it. But then when you hit the 81 model, you can see the sharpening has ceased a little earlier, but you still have that little indent in the tip there for piercing. And then when you move over to the 86 models, you still have the same, but then you lose the indent at the end. So very small differences, very small changes in these knives, but they all are something that you might want to learn if you're wanting to find an earlier one. Now, specifically, I do like the standard where you don't have toothpick or tweezers. But for me, I don't mind having the tools in the scales. Now, I did mention the key rings. These key rings continued on probably up until, I want to say, the late 80s, because I am able to find them on late 80s models. But when you find them on the later 80s models, then you have a later knife. But then when you have the earlier knife, you have all these signs that this is an earlier knife, and then the key ring is still very early. So a lot of things change when you get into these knives. The other one is going to be the placement of the key ring. It wasn't up until the late 80s that they kept it on the left side with the corkscrew, but it wasn't until the early 90s they switched it over to the back spring side on the right side, and then that got a little beefier, a little more stout in the early 2000s, or actually not early 2000s, 2011, 2010s, I guess you could call it. So that is a real quick video, and I just wanted to show off this new edition here, and then this a new edition here. Now this one specifically, I am probably not going to be carrying this one. It's going to go into the private collection that I have, and it's just going to be a very nice little early piece. Now, depending if I get another one, this may pop up for sale, and it will be sold at a very reasonable price. So, till the next one, I will talk to you guys later, and I truly hope this helps you out. So, see you in the next one. Bye-bye.